talking about what makes you successful in life, relationships, and business. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy.
Welcome to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Stiles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
You know, all work and no play makes Rachel a dull girl.
Yes, it does.
But all play and no work makes Rachel a broke girl.
Yes, it does.
What's worse? I don't know. But it's all about balance. And that's what we're going to talk about today is balance. And we're going to share with you, you don't want to go anywhere because we're going to share with you some great tips of how to keep proper balance in your life and really why you want to have proper balance.
So you don't fall off the tightrope.
Makes sense to me. So when I was kind of thinking about this subject, Rachel, a song came to mind. And
Okay.
I'd love to share the lyrics with you.
Go, girl.
My child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking before I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, Dad? I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know, we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball. Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today. I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay. And he walked away. But his smile never dimmed. It said, I'm going to be like him, yeah. You know I'm going to be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, he came from college just the other day. So much like a man, I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later. Can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you coming home, son? I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we're going to have a good time then. I've long since retired and my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids got the flu. But it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, son? I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we're going to have a good time then.
Whew. That's a little powerful when you really listen to those lyrics and think about all that was missed because there was no balance.
Exactly. And you know what? We always think we're going to have the time, but how many times do we stop and think we're creating ourselves?
Right.
And our children, everything that we're doing right now, that's what they're going to turn out to be. So my question to the listeners is, what are you putting all your time and attention on? You know, it wasn't long ago that I actually almost lost my marriage because I didn't have that balance. I was new to personal development, and I'll tell you what, I love personal development. To me, it is just so amazing. It is wonderful.
It is your candy store, girl.
It is. I am a little kid in a candy store. You give me new books. You give me new subjects, new topics, new things to overcome. I light up.
You do.
And at the time when I first started, my husband didn't. If you listened to the podcast last week, actually, I think that he said he despised me.
He did. Those were some serious words coming out.
Those were some honest words. He despised me because he wasn't on the bus, right? He wasn't taking this journey with me at the time. And he lost his wife to this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know me, you know I'm all in, right?
You are.
So that's a great thing as long as you have balance.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so we both are huge into personal growth.
Yes.
And when we dive in, we dive in.
100%.
But the problem sometimes is we dive in and we try to, how do I want to put this? Drink the pool, the whole pool.
Just use your own. You always say it. We try to drink the hose, the
Oh,
hydrant.
yes. Okay, yes. Instead of taking a sip of water, we use that fire hydrant, right? We try to take it all in.
And we like drown ourselves, right?
And then, let's be honest, Shannon, when we do that, do we get very far?
No, not at all.
Because we go into
But it's exciting.
Overload. It is.
It's exciting to
It
learn
is.
this, you guys. It's exciting to visualize your future and want to work towards it and do all of that.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
It is. But there's also, I'll give you a great example, or give our listeners a great example of like what I did. So I was very excited to buy this course, right? And learn this new strategy for my business. And I loved the woman who was teaching it, and I bought it. And then 2 weeks later, there was another woman that I absolutely loved. And I'm like, yes, I want her course too.
I think it's going to take us about 5 years to catch up on all the courses we've bought.
It will. But here was the sad thing, guys. I bought the same course for about $600 a pop from 2 different women. If I had actually finished the first course that I purchased, I would have realized, because I still would have been in the middle of it, and I could have actually bought another course from this woman or the other lady and realized that, hey, I got what I need. Now I have 2 courses teaching me the same thing.
So sometimes we
Ouch.
have to slow down, right? And
Yes.
Let's go back to my husband and I and my marriage almost not existing.
Right?
How did I change things? That's probably the most useful information we can give the listeners. And it was, I made date night.
You found some balance in your
Right.
personal growth.
I created a date night, and we have a date night. Regardless of what's going on, we always have a date night once a week. You might think it sounds crazy that I have to schedule my husband in, but let me give you a visual, and I need you to close your eyes for a minute, okay? And think of a jar, and think of sand, and you've got big rocks, and you have little rocks, and you know what? This would have been better if I thought about this. We would have actually done
You
it.
would have done it.
Yeah, but you've got all of this material that needs to fit into this jar, right? And you put the sand in first, and then you just throw the little rocks in, and you throw the big rocks on top. It's not going to fit. Well, those big rocks,
Then pour the glass of water. Don't forget about the water.
So it doesn't matter what's in there. So dump it out, right? You're putting too much crap in my jar. So dump it out. Dump all that stuff out again. Now, I want you to think of the big rocks as your family, as the most important things to you, okay? Whatever those are the big rocks. Those are the things that you have to put on your calendar first. Now put those rocks in that jar, all right? Keep visualizing this. The next thing I want you to grab those little rocks, okay? And I want you to put those little rocks in. Now, those little rocks are when Rachel calls me and says, okay, let's be honest. When I call Rachel and I say, hey, I want to list my house and I need you to come over and help me organize my house so that it looks good in pictures, right? That's a little rock. That's not something that is going to get Rachel closer to her end goal, but it's something that she cares about because she cares about me. So if she doesn't have a boulder in that place at the moment, she can say,
absolutely.
this weekend will work,
Yep.
right? which that's what we're doing this weekend. So those are the little rocks. Now sprinkle those over the big rocks and notice how those are just kind of falling in wherever you get them. Now on your calendar, that's where you look at your calendar and you see the boulders and you fill those in around it, right? Now I want you to take the sand and I want you to scoop it all up and I want you to just pour that sand over everything, right? And kind of shake the bottle and everything will fall down and now pour the rest of the sand. Now you've got everything in there that a minute ago you weren't able to get in, right? And the sand is, that coworker that comes up to you and says, "Oh my gosh, I want to leave early. Can you help me with this?" Or you're done with your work and you've got a little extra time and you say, "I want to be a team player," and I'm going to reach out and say, "Hey, does anybody need any help?" Right? It's those things that you don't have to do, but it's your personality and you want to do,
your
right?
Unscheduled things that pop up in life because we know that happens.
Or we find, Tony Robbins calls it net time. Here, I'll give you an excellent example. When I drive, I always have some type of program on. It could be a challenge I'm doing with Tony Robbins. It could be a course that I have with Ed Milet. Whatever it is that I'm learning, I always have that on while I'm driving. Tony Robbins calls it net time. No extra time. That's your sand. Mm-hmm. That's where you just drop it in. You see a little bit of time in your schedule and you take that time and you just spend, you got to cut it off, right? When that time's up, you cut it off. So that little trick alone, me blocking my time for those things that are most important, me filling the rocks in and then putting the sand on top of it, I get more accomplished probably in the first 4 hours of a day than somebody will all day long.
Oh, absolutely. But the main thing you're doing to create that balance is you're living intentionally. Mm-hmm. You are owning your schedule. And I love this rock analogy. I've seen it done many, many times. Shannon's done lives on it. I love it. But one of the boulders that I want to make sure our listeners make, besides family and God and all those good things, is yourself.
Yes.
You are a boulder in that cup.
And you know what my calendar is. What is that?
Spa day.
Once a month, I have a spa day. I also use date nights. My husband and I do mani-pedi. Well, he does pedis. I do mani-pedi. But we schedule those. Those are boulders. Those are things that you absolutely have to have in. And let me tell you, if you start doing this and if you start living this way, you will be balanced.
Yes. And, and I love that Shannon does her spa days. I do those occasionally. Mm-hmm. But, it doesn't have to be that. It could be 15 minutes for you to read a book that inspires you, or locking the bathroom door and saying, "I'm taking a bubble bath, and for the next 10 minutes, nobody better knock." Because there's different budgets, there's different things. So don't think that self-care has to be outside of taking care of yourself. It could be a homemade mask, but it's just giving you back some of you so that you do have balance.
Yeah. And, in complete transparency to our listeners, I have not looked at my calendar for a little while. And I've been off kilter because, as you know, I've had some medical issues that has really thrown me off. I gained 33 pounds in 3 months, and that just keeps going up. We know what's wrong with me. We're working on it, but it's a very slow process to get me back to where I was. And that threw my whole schedule off. With these medical issues, I've also got low hemoglobin. My vitamin D is low, so I don't have as much energy. I'm not able to wake up at 5 o'clock when we used to wake up. So my morning ritual is out the window, right? But I realize this, and when you start doing this, it doesn't mean it's that you're going to be perfect, guys.
There's no reason for perfection.
Right.
You're looking for progress.
You're going to fall off. You're going to get unbalanced. You're going to have something coming up in life. But the cool thing is when that happens, you recognize it sooner. And once you recognize it, you can then change it.
Right. It's being intentional.
Yeah. So now I've noticed it. What do I have calendared for the next couple of days that I'm going to do? 90-day plan.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Your 90-day plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to come up with a 90-day plan, and my 5 o'clock in the morning has now had to change to 7.
Yep.
So my whole schedule is going to change a little bit. I might lose a little bit of my sand because my body just physically doesn't have the energy right now, but I'm still going to be able to get much more done. And I tell you this not for you to be sorry for me, because heck no, don't feel sorry for me. I want you to know, because I want you to know that we're human.
Absolutely.
We struggle with the exact same things that the listeners struggle with. Sometimes we struggle with more, sometimes less.
Well, I have to think about how many times I went on Facebook and I'm like, I'm getting up at 5 in the morning and I'm working out and I'm blah, blah, blah. And then something would derail me, and it's usually my fault, right? Mm-hmm. I stopped being intentional, and here I would be 2 months later. I'm getting back up at 5 in the morning. Now, guys, I do get up at 5 in the morning.
Yes, you do.
And I have done it every single day, even on vacation for the last over 2 months.
I got to tell you,
last night, proud of that.
Last night we had Fireball Friday. It's just a little thing
goodness, guys.
It's a little thing that my husband and his buddies, and they're now my dear friends also. You know, after a hard week, we go over. We have a couple Fireball shots and maybe a couple drinks, and then we might shoot some pool. We'll play shuffleboard, and then we'll all go to dinner, and we're home by 9 o'clock usually. It was Rachel's first time last night, and as a newbie, they like to really, really break you in, right?
Break you in, right.
Rachel didn't know that she has the right to say no.
No, I did not.
So, but I tell you this because Rach stayed the night with me last night, and at 5 o'clock this morning, you can check her Facebook. She made a post.
I was up
and at 'em.
I was up. I was doing my meditation. I was doing my silence and all the things that I do. But I want you guys to know that I did this because I figured out that is what keeps me personally on balance. And, you know, for a long time, Shannon and I would do these things together. Well, things have changed for her. Yeah. Physically, 5 a.m., she just can't. And I depended on her for my complete balance. And I'm very proud of myself. And it wasn't easy, but I found that within myself. And so find your time. Find whatever works for you, but find something.
And one of your boulders, I really want to encourage you to, you know, for Fireball Friday, that's my friend's boulder. That's that set of friends. We make sure that, now we don't do it every Friday night, but we do make sure that at least once a month we are there. When things are going a little smoother, maybe we're there more often. But it's time that we spend with our friends. But I do want to encourage you, make sure to put your health in there. Make your health a boulder.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't make your health a boulder, you may find that your health diminishes. And, you know, I'm not worried about myself. I know what's going on with my body. I know we have a game plan to fix it. It's going to take a little while. It doesn't mean it has to slow me down at all. One of my mentors is Tony Robbins, and he's got mercury poisoning.
Unbelievable.
The man has figured out how to live with that. If he can figure that out, I can figure out how to live what's going on with me. I just have to adjust. And sometimes that's what we have to do. Sometimes we have to adjust our situation, or adjust what we're doing and try something different, because it's not always going to work the way that we initially do it, right?
Right. Well, think about with balance.
But just don't give up.
With balance, and you've got someone walking a tightrope, right? Have you ever seen them and they have that stick? That stick is going back and forth, and they are moving it to create the balance, and they take a step or two forward, and then they adjust it a little bit, and they take a step or two forward. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for progress. They just want to get across.
And that's a wonderful analogy. I love that. And I'm going to say the stick is you. It could be your spouse. It could be your friends. That stick is going to be different things at times, but you have to make sure you have that stick, right?
Right.
The pole, actually.
The pole,
it's not a stick.
Yeah. There you go.
But it's something that you want to make sure that you have in your life to help you keep balanced, because you definitely don't want one side falling to the point that you fall off. And maybe it was your marriage, maybe it was your health, maybe it was the relationship with your kids. That's what we want you to avoid. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. And when we return, we're going to talk more about balance, and we're going to help you to think of things that maybe you're not even thinking of that are keeping you from living a fulfilled life. You're listening to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast is brought to you in part by the Shannon Styles Allstate Insurance Agency. Just as you take that next step in life, you need to take that next step in protecting yourself, your car, your home, and your family. Reach out to Shannon at 316-773-9864 or shoot her an email at sstyles@allstate.com. Also by Simplify My Life ICT. Is your life cluttered? Do you need help with organization? Rachel Murphy can help. Check out Rachel's services online at simplifymylifeict.com or reach out to Rachel at simplifymylifeict@gmail.com. To keep up with the Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast, make sure to follow them on their Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll. There you can find content, podcasts of the show, discussions with Rachel and Shannon, and more. Plus, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites, from iTunes and Spotify, Google Play to TuneIn, and right on their Podbean site at jumppivotandroll.podbean.com. And for all the exclusive content, make sure to become a VIP member on their Patreon site. Just go to patreon.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll.
And welcome back to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Styles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy. And we just want to take a very quick minute to thank our listeners for the amazing messages that they have sent Shannon and me over this last week with our episode 6.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Where Shannon's husband came on and just shared his journey, which was amazing and very vulnerable. And if you missed that one, go tune in. But to all those who sent us those sweet private messages and shared some of their journey and what they've been through, we just want you to know that we thank you and we appreciate you, and keep listening and let us know what you want.
Yeah, and our thoughts and prayers are with you. And you know what? We know that you've got the strength to make it forward, to make it through this. Just keep taking the steps that you're taking, because you will make it through it.
That's right.
So I want you to think about your checkbook. What
do
happens?
I have to?
What happens if you spend more than you make?
You get charges.
Yeah, you get yourself in trouble,
You get
right?
yourself in trouble. Yeah.
So what do? We balance our checkbook.
Absolutely.
I'm not very good at that. Do you balance your checkbook?
John balances my checkbook.
I don't balance my checkbook. I say, how much went in? Okay, we got to, and sometimes it gets me in trouble, right? Sometimes I have to pull from another account and put it in there. And I hate doing that, because that other account is called a savings account.
That's right.
So it's so important that we keep balance, right? in our life. Finances is another boulder. Before we went on break, we were talking about the boulders in our lives, that we have to make sure that we take care of those things and we put those things on our calendar first. What do you think would happen if we never put time to budget on our calendar?
To budget time, to budget money. What kind of to budget are we talking
Anything. Let's go with money.
Well, electric bills would get turned off. You might be on the street. I mean,
Yeah.
you may have a really grumbly tumbly.
You're probably never going to grow, and you're never going to live an abundant life.
No.
Because where focus goes, energy flows, and if we don't put that focus on that area of our life, it's not going to grow.
Right.
We just did Successful Living, and on the show this morning, I shared that I got to a point, starting a new business, it'll be 3 years in April of next year, that I've had the agency, the insurance agency, and when I first purchased the agency, I didn't have any capital. So I used my personal credit cards as my capital. And I got to a point where I looked at these cards, which, by the way, at one time in my life, I had a $500 balance, and that was what I could spend on that credit card. And I'm now to a point where tens of thousands, right? And it's like, first of all, I didn't even realize I'd be at a point where I'd have these huge potential balances for a credit card. But now I'm seeing, I got to a point where I was seeing them getting really close to maxed out. Not even maxed out. I mean, probably 70-some% full. And it scared me because I wasn't balanced anymore. I mean, even with your credit score, you want to keep a good balance. You don't want to use everything on the credit card, right? You don't want to use all of the available income. So I focused my attention on, and I made my debt a boulder. Mm-hmm. And I put that into my calendar, and I started saying, okay, I'm going to focus attention on this. And I got to tell you guys, when I went into it thinking, well, what can I do? You know, I make the same amount of money I made back then. What can I do? I was telling myself this bad story, right? Well, the reason the agency hasn't gotten the capital still, and all these stories. And I said, no, I'm going to put this on my calendar. So this was about 2, maybe 3 months ago.
3 months ago. Yep.
Yeah. So I just started taking money and plugging away any extra money that we had. Dave Ramsey, right?
Right.
Started doing a Dave Ramsey program. Any extra money after the bills, and we gave ourselves an allowance and all of that. I took all that money and started paying down. Well, in 3 months, I'm proud to say I don't even know where the money came from, but I'm $22,000 less in debt.
Right.
Why? Because I put my focus on that. I was intentional. And that's what you need in order to be balanced. You have to be intentional about doing it. You have to recognize what needs to be important in your life. And once you recognize that, you know, it's the checkbook. You have to balance that checkbook. That's important. Do you want everything you're working for because it's a snowball effect, right?
It is.
I mean, are you ready to share what COVID did to you in the business?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So my business was going great, guys. I was booked 6 weeks to 8 weeks out. And when I say I was booked, I mean I was booked solid. I was actually getting ready to hire a couple of people, but right before COVID hit, I actually got sick with what I'm pretty sure was COVID. I was working with a pilot who was in all those hot spots. So I was down for 7 weeks, but I was still okay. And I don't have a lot of debt because my husband and I have worked very hard at that, but I was going to wipe out the rest of my debt. And right before COVID, I bought some big programs not big like Shannon does, big like Rachel does. They're a little different, but
That's
I
okay.
had still bought those, and then I had started paying those things off. Again, right before COVID, the money's coming in, I'm doing good. And then I really didn't create any balance because I'm like, I'm wiping this out and I'm wiping that out and I'm doing this. And COVID hit and I couldn't go work and I couldn't take on new clients. And
You didn't pivot quite
I
quickly
didn't
enough,
pivot.
right?
I did not pivot.
You got a little bit
I-
caught in the fear of it.
I got caught. Well, let's be honest. I got caught a lot in the fear of it.
But we have a
because
beautiful garden at
we
your
do.
house.
We have chickens and we have food storage and I knew if anything happened that Shannon and the people that I love were going to be okay. And that's where I pivoted all of my energy,
Right.
which became off balance. It truly did. But then here's the other thing. Shannon offered to help me out. My husband would have helped me out had I gone to
Yeah.
him. And I did not because I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I was in complete panic and I had one bill that was coming in that I tried to get a hold of them and let them know, hey, I need you to hold off on this. I had never been late and they would not return my call. So I called my bank and I said, okay, I just want to cancel this. And I know you're going to charge me. And that's okay. I will take care of all of this when things return. And they said, well, all they have to do is change the amount that they ask for. It's not going to do you any good. You really need to get a hold of this company. They never returned that call. And that one check bouncing caused other small things that normally came through for my business. And when I recovered, I was almost $900 in the hole.
Right.
Now, had I taken the help from my best friend, had I taken the help from my husband, it wouldn't have done that. And I'll tell you guys, it is so embarrassing because I've never had to do this before, but I closed my account down to stop the hemorrhaging.
Right. Now,
Painful.
since then, she's changed her focus
Yes.
and she's gotten that balance back.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important. And all of that's taken care of. She doesn't have
Oh
any
yeah,
bad
no,
debt.
no. It's all good. I'm back
she's in
on
a great
track.
place. She's in the
have
in the,
savings, taxes are
Yeah,
paid.
she's in the black again.
Oh yeah.
All's good. But
But the lesson was amazing.
Yeah.
And so painful. Oh, so painful.
it was humbling is what it was for you.
It was humiliating
It
and
was
humbling.
your ego was hit.
My
right?
ego was hit because and I also had 4 pretty good speaking engagements that were paid speaking engagements that got canceled as well. And I was counting on all of those things to come in for the plan that I was doing originally.
So this lesson that she learned is kind of, it all has to do with balance, right? The first thing is don't ignore it. If you ignore it, it's a snowball effect.
And I did. I want you guys to know I did. I'm like, I will figure this out. I will do something.
And sometimes it's okay to take help, right? Don't be so, humble yourself.
Right.
Don't be so proud that you don't accept a helping hand. You know, that's what we're here for occasionally. That's what you go to people, and God's going to put people in your life that are going to help you when you need the help.
It's like the boat, right? The
Yeah,
guy
exactly.
who's on the roof and the water's rising.
There's a flood.
And he's like, God, please save me. Please save me. And the boat comes by and says, get in. And he's like, no, I'm waiting for God. And then another boat comes in by and no, I'm waiting for God. And he's like, God, why won't you help me? He's like, I sent you 2 boats. What more do you need?
Yep. You've got to recognize that and put the ego aside.
That's a hard one for me, guys.
Balance has to do with nothing with ego.
Right.
You've got to take that ego out, because if you're looking at the ego, it's all about you. I mean, it's not about the fact that your husband's credits with your credit, right?
Right.
Or you put yourself behind and you almost didn't get to go on our trip.
I almost
right?
lost our cruise.
Come on, it's
yes.
about me, guys. Let's be honest. Not really, but don't ignore it is my point on this.
Right.
And when your life goes to get a little bit out of balance, like myself and my health, you just have to pivot. She learned she has to pivot faster.
Way faster. Yeah.
And when that happens, you pivot. You figure it out, right? I, on the other hand, was a little more prepared because I had been to an event with Tony Robbins where he had just really pounded into us. Winter is my season. Winter is the time when it's dark and cold and everybody else is panicking and we're moving forward, right? So I was prepared for it, and as soon as I saw it, I got excited.
She did. She got excited.
It was
So
an
excited.
opportunity. It was like, holy cow, everybody else is going to be on pause. They're going to be paralyzed. It's going to be my time to jump in there. We're going to launch the podcast. We're going to do this. I mean, it was my time to jump and rise, and I was excited.
She was ready to roll.
It was a time for me. I was out there every single day delivering food to, I had stocked up enough supplies that I could share with my clients. It was awesome. I loved it. And my partner here was in her house hiding.
Okay,
Scared.
I wasn't hiding. I was planting a garden.
You were
and I
hiding
was
from everybody in the world.
making bread, and I was doing different
Now,
things.
she did pivot in a really good way because I've got to tell you, if it got as bad as the government initially thought it could be.
You would have been okay.
Exactly.
I mean, we wouldn't have just
we
been
all would
okay.
have been all right.
We would have
We would have been just fine.
good.
Yeah. So it's okay. I mean, she did what was right at the time.
Just
it's
not for my business. My focus
Yeah.
was my family.
It wasn't
and
balanced.
You. It wasn't
balanced. She did a 360 and said, okay, here's what's important, and forgot about all the rest.
And I do that too often. And that's why after I went through that, that's why I started creating the boulders. That's why even after a few too many shots last night, I was up at 5 a.m. doing my thing. That is my start to my balance.
You're right. And I go back to cats in the cradle because there are always going to be planes to catch and bills to pay. Or maybe it's going to be, your work or whatever. There's always going to be something. The college kids are going to want to borrow the car keys and they'll say, I'll see you later. And then you're going to find out that you'll be retired and your kids have moved away. And when you call them up, you don't want to hear them say, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. When you say that and they say, I'd love to, if I could find the time. The new job's a hassle. The kids have the flu. But it's sure nice talking to you. Let's not teach our kids to live like this. Let's teach our kids that even though the kids got the flu and the new job's a hassle and you have those boulders in place and they say, I'll see you Sunday. Sunday dinner is for us, or whatever it is, whatever fits your calendar, right? Whatever is important to you, just make sure to put that time in there.
Absolutely. And again, and you guys hear me say this a lot, you are one of those boulders.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to find yourself not healthy, worn down, and then nothing will be balanced. It's all about balance. And when we look at life as being a balancing act, and when we prepare for life as a balancing act, just like you said, that tightrope, and you've got that pole,
Yep.
and you're using those tools to help you get to the other side,
Yep.
you're going to do things that people only dream of.
You're going to see things that people that are down on the ground have no idea even exist.
You're gonna find abundance in a manner that You know, when you used to be happy for a $500 balance on a credit card, you find yourself paying off $22,000 in a couple of months and go, where did that come from? You know, but it's where you're focusing your time and energy. And when we focus on it, guys, it happens. That's how our body is created. Our subconscious works 24/7. So my question to you is, do you want it working on your fears and trying to protect you from crap that, let's be honest, probably won't even come to fruition? Or do you want it working on a problem or a situation that you want to overcome so that you can go to that next level? It's possible for you to go to that next level. Even if you don't think it's possible that you do it if you just become fearless and you have that fear, but you do it anyway, right? You focus your attention on it anyway, and you say, you're very specific. You say, I'm going to clear up my credit within the next year. By January 1st, 2021, I am going to have all credit cards paid off. How am I going to do that? I'm going to start with the smallest one first. So I get that momentum going, right? I'll get the momentum going. And then your subconscious, while you're asleep, is going to be finding ways for money to come to you to make that possible. But if you don't make that boulder a priority, and if you don't focus on it, you're going to find a snowball effect in the opposite direction.
That's right. So here is our challenge to you, our listeners. I want you to pull out a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to write at least 5 boulders. Sure. You can be the first one, or for some, they want God to be the first one. That is your choice, but write down those 5 boulders. Then write down some of your little rocks, those things that come in, community service, volunteering, all those things that are important to you and that make life joyful for you. And even some of the things that maybe aren't so joyful, but you need to do anyways. And then when the sand comes
exercise. Hello, that's one of my boulders that I don't enjoy exercise. I will be honest, I don't enjoy getting up in the morning, going and walking for an hour. I don't like it, but I do it.
Yeah.
It's a boulder.
It's a boulder for you. And then when the sand, those are those unplanned things that just happen in life, come in, you're going to know how to fit them, and you're going to be living more intentionally. So please let us know your favorite takeaway. Let us know your new boulder.
Yeah, tell us your boulders.
We would love to know that. Maybe we need to add a boulder to our boulders.
Let us help you be accountable, right? Let us help keep you balanced.
Absolutely.
Because we can do that. A lot of times we count on each other.
We count on each other a lot. And that's another thing, find somebody that you can share that list with. If it's not us, find somebody so that you are accountable to what you are putting down, because this is how you live an intentional, balanced, your best life. And that's what we really want for you.
Thank you so much for listening. Life doesn't always come with directions. Sometimes you have to jump, pivot, and roll. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it out. Until next week, have a fantabulous day.
Bye, guys.